Okay, good morning everybody. On a good yar, a Gemar Chasima Taiva to one and all. So on Monday morning, we began a new mimer from the Alter Rebbe that deals with Yom Kippur and Sukkot and Hashmini Atzeres. It begins with Tshuva and then it goes on to Sukkot and Hashmini Atzeres, and it's in the section of Sukkot, Drushim LeSukkot, page 160. We did the first chapter, almost completed the first chapter, and today we'll continue. And Be'ezer Hashem, Monday morning, I hope to finish the mimer. So turn to page 160. The mimer starts off Lahavin Mashakasav Bayom Hashmini Atzeres Tia Lachem. You see 160. In the Hebrew, it's Pei, column 4. Daf Pei, column 4. But on top it says Drushim LeSukkos. Drushim LeSukkos. Okay, today's class is dedicated by Simcha and Hannah Miller from Ramat Beit Shemesh, with tremendous appreciation for the yeshiva.net and its incredible life-changing classes. Thank you very, very much, and a lot of hatzlacha to you in everything, and an amazing year with all the blessings. It's also dedicated for a blessing in memory of Michal ben Yosef Digilov, Olav Hashalom. Tehei nishmas etzruda b'tzer Chaim, and may he be an eternal source of blessing and inspiration. And thank you very, very much for your partnership. So what was the main point that we learned last week, the first class? He starts off with a diuk, with a change in a word, that there's two Yamim Tovim, there's two holidays that are called Atzeres in Chumash, following another Yom Tov. Shavuos is its own Yom Tov, but following another Yom Tov, Shvi Shel Pesach is called Atzeres, and Shmini Atzeres is called Atzeres. We even call it Atzeres. But Shmini Atzeres, we actually call Shmini Atzeres. In davening, Bayom, Shmini Atzeres Achagaza. Shvi Shel Pesach, you don't say Bayom Atzeres Achagaza. The Pashtas, it's a continuation to Pesach, so they didn't change the name. Shmini Atzeres, it says, is its own holiday. But the way the Torah describes the two Atzeres is different. When it comes to Shmini Atzeres, it says, Bayom Hashmini Atzeres Tia Lechem. The word Atzeres means it should be a day of gathering, and a day in which you're closed off from work. Atzeres means when people come together, it's called even today an Atzeret. Yeah, the Kachamarim Bivrit, no? Kinus. Atzeres. Because when you're together, it's Atzor. You're closed off from, you're quarantined, you're together. Sealed off. If everybody goes wherever they want, it's not an Atzeres. Atzeres means people come together to one room, to one hall, to one garden, one yard, one thoroughfare. But that's what Atzeres is. So Bayom Hashmini Atzeres, it should be a day of Atzeres, where you stay put, you stay together, and you don't really work. Tia Lechem for you. In Parshas Re'eh, it says about Shvi Shel Pesach, also Atzeres, but Atzeres L'Hashem Elokecha. Here it's for you, and here it's for Hashem. Now you could say, what's the difference? It's for both. God, Hashem gave the Jewish people this day, he wants to be together. But it's interesting, by Shmini Atzeres, Sukkot, it's Lechem, it's for you Atzeres, it's to you. And by Pesach, it's L'Hashem Elokecha. That's how the Maimon begins. In order to understand this, he goes off subject and he starts talking about what love, what Avos Hashem is. V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha. We say in Kriyat Shema, B'chol levavcha, B'chol nafshecha, B'chol moedecha. With all your heart, you should love with all your heart, with all your soul, or B'chol moedecha, usually they translate with all your might, with all your ma'id. Ma'id from the word very. Excessively, very intensely, ma'od, with all your might, with all your strength. So the Rebbe explains that v'ahavta in Lashon Kodesh in Hebrew has two meanings. You shall and you will. The word v'ahavta, you shall love, or v'ahavta, you will love. Like you say, even today in Hebrew you say, te'ahavata, means you shall love, or you're going to love him. V'ahavta, you will love. And he explains And this is a very, very fundamental idea, that a mitzvah is lashon tzivui, but it's also lashon asad. It's an instruction, but it's also a prediction. When all the blockages are removed, this is what's going to happen. So it's not I'm telling you to do something contrary to who you are. On the contrary, I'm telling you what's going to happen. This is where it's going to go. The reason it's going to go this way is because this is who you are. So when the truth comes out, when reality prevails, and reality always prevails because reality comes from the word real, emes me'eretz titzmach. So when reality prevails, this is what it's going to look like. So a mitzvah really means engaging in something that is aligned with what is the ultimate reality. It may take some time for me to see it, for somebody else to see it, for the world to see it. That's true. That's why there's a mitzvah. Yeah. It says, the Gemara says, "Nid the mitzvahs p'teilus la'asad love." La'asad love, the mitzvahs are bottle. So the Alter Rebbe teaches mitzvahs p'teilus la'asad love. The element of mitzvah, the commandment. Yeah, nobody commands you to breathe. Nobody instructs somebody to breathe. The whole system of the body is directed towards that. Right? Nobody tells even the child, when you're hungry, maybe it's time to eat, to drink. Why? If you haven't eaten a day or two, so it's not that you don't eat. It's not a mitzvah. It's not a gedder of a mitzvah. Because it's just who you are. It's natural. The Gemara says that pru is a mitzvah on men, not on women. To have children is a mitzvah on men, not on women. So the Rebbe once asked, he said, it's a funny thing. The women have Mesidas Nefesh for it. And the men get the mitzvah. Like, the man gives a contribution, a very important contribution, but it's the chayna b'doima, the pregnancy and the 9 months and the birth and all the pain, and it comes with it. It's Mesidas Nefesh, and then the nursing. I mean, it's the man, it's the man's mitzvah, the woman, okay, yeah, we need you a little bit. So he said, fakert. By men, pru has to be a mitzvah. Because if not, men, they do their own thing. By a woman, it's her whole mitzias. It's deeper than a mitzvah. It's her very nature, and mitzias celebrates it. So he says, if a hafta is not just a mitzvah, it's also a mitzvah, you shall, but it's you will, it's lashon asad. That's where the person goes. As he says, lo yidach imenu nidach. What type of ava is this? So there's 3 things. B'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol medach. So we explained it at length. I'm just going to do the summation. You could listen to the last class. It's very geschmack beer. B'chol levavcha means, the Mishnah says, b'shnei yitzarecha. All the parts of you. The Mishnah says, the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. And he explains. Because essentially, all the parts are going to come to love, because deep down, even that which looks like a Yetzer Hara, which is negative and toxic and even poisonous or evil inclination, everything can and therefore will be transformed. In other words, all the passions a person has, all the emotions, all the instincts, all the anxieties, whatever it may be, all the broken feelings that a person has, which we call Yetzer Hara, as he puts it here, ultimately, he says, the whole power and intensity and fire of every conceivable type of Yetzer Hara in Olam Haza, it's all going to be transformed to Avos Hashem. And that's really what Geula is. It says by the Geula, Az efech al amim safa brura likrei kulam b'shem Hashem la'avdei kulam shechem echad. As epoch al amim, it's not just the physical nations of the world, that too. It's also inside every person. All the sharashim, as he puts it, of all the taivas gashmim, of all the physical material cravings, all the sharashim, all their roots, which is kol ha'amim, it represents the roots, the shaydish of all the different types of emotions and instincts. It's all going to be transformed. That's what we call this hapcha, transformation. So we explained at length what this means, at least one of the ideas, that every single taiva and every single emotion and instinct in the world, if you trace it back to its shayrish, to its source, to its root, and you hold space for it with compassion, with empathy, you don't get scared from the chitzonius of it, you'll see that really the person is looking for Avos Hashem. The person is really looking for dveikus, for oneness with the source of life, and there's only one source of life, and that's the source of goodness and pleasure and bliss, and einoid mulvad. there was a distortion in the process of how we cultivate and how we grow up. I explained at length the banana, there's the banana peel, there's the banana. Very good, hijack. Yeah, that was the word. And sometimes the banana peel is not a bad thing. A banana peel is a very good thing. We call it a klippa. Klippa is not a bad thing. Unless the klippa hijacks the banana and suddenly there's no banana, there's only a banana peel. And that's what happens to people. With bananas, doesn't happen because bananas usually don't have a yetzer hara. And they also don't have trauma like people. They could, but not the same level. Although we share 50% of our DNA with a banana, just for the record. When you look at a banana, it's not such a far relative. It's 50% of a person is a banana. Although it's a pasnish, but that's the truth. Right? So, the evolutionary scientists like to say, because everything evolved from everything else. We were a banana. In some Gilgal, you were a banana. But the Rebbe said, Punkt Farke, since the whole world comes from Achdus Hapshuta, so everything is everything else. Wherever you look, you're going to find the same Nakud. Of course you share 50% with a banana. The whole world comes from Achdus Hapshuta, so everything is everything else. Everything is interconnected, interlaced. It's a much more rich explanation. Much more rich and much more real explanation. When you look at animals, we share much more DNA. Like with a chimpanzee, we share almost 100%, 99% of our DNA with a chimpanzee. Why am I saying this? I forgot. I guess. Oh, the banana peel, yeah. I'm saying the mushel from a banana is not such a remote mushel. So if the banana peel hijacks the banana, and suddenly the banana doesn't know that it's a banana, it thinks it's the banana peel, its whole life is invested in the peel. It doesn't even know what a banana tastes like. That can happen by a person where the klippa takes over and hijacks the personality. And where's the real self? The real self is bagrabin somewhere, buried deep, deep, deep down. And this is the story of unblending and disentangling. In Chassidus it's called avodas habirurim. The word birurim is literally unblending, levarer, right? Boirer on Shabbos, you're not supposed to do boirer. What's boirer? Boirer is unblending. You know, you have a salad and there's stuff mixed in, and you want to separate. You want to literally separate the two. This is called psilus. This is not good, this is good. So on Shabbos you don't do boirer. You could take out the good from the bad, but not the bad from the good, unless and only if you're going to use it right away. So that's the lashon avodas habirurim, is the avodah of unblending, disentangling, so that you could see this is this, and this is this. This is the peel, and this is the banana. And then you realize the peel wasn't here to destroy the banana. Actually, the peel was here to assist the banana, to protect the banana. In its protection of the banana, sometimes it goes haywire. It goes wacko. It goes crazy. It goes mad because usually of certain breakdowns or breaking points which cause the shell to say, this banana is doomed. I'm going to take over. The environment, and many different factors. And that's really what happens, how a yetzer hara develops. So essentially, if you go down to the skeleton of it, he says every type of yetzer hara in the world is going to ultimately become one day avos Hashem. That's what it's going to be. That's b'chalav avcha. So your whole heart, there's no part of you that's not part of the love. There's no part of you that you have to be afraid of. There's no part of you that won't and that can't and won't be transformed. You say, well, you don't know me. So that's what Alter Rebbe said. For the person who says, you don't know me, he says, Kol minei yetzer hara sheba'olam hasa. Kol minei yetzer hara. Chol avavcha. As far as you go, it's fine. It's beseder. When you believe so strongly in the soul like he did, then you're not afraid of looking at everything else. If you don't believe that underneath the peel there's a banana, then you're afraid. You know, what's going to come up? But if you know the truth, then you're not afraid, because it's just all protecting and covering up what's inside. Then he says there's b'chol nafshecha. B'chol nafshecha is the frequency of love that's experienced only by the soul. Nafshecha, nefesh elikis. Nafshi yivisicha. Heichel Bais Hashem, it says about about souls. Heichel, the Yirmiyah says, Heichel Hashem, Heima, Klei Beis Hashem, they're containers of Hashem and Klei Beis Hashem. The Nefesh Elokis has an experience of Ava that is unique. As he puts it, you won't find this Ava even in the physical world. We have a lot of love, but all the love that we have is defined by the properties of our world and the properties of our heart. There's a type of love that the Nefesh Elokis can have that you're not going to even find a replica of it. The first love is B'chal Levavcha. It's a love the Yetzer Hara also has. We have a lot of different attractions. I'm attracted to this, I'm attracted to this, I'm attracted to this. Deep down, there's a difference between being attracted to something because that's who you really are, or being attracted to something as a distraction of who you really are. That's why ultimately B'chal Levavcha is that everything is going to be transformed instead of being a distraction. But to say that there's no replica of love in other places, there is plenty. In fact, that's why the Klippa does such a powerful job. It substitutes. Instead of authentic love, I'll give you a different type of love. But everybody is searching for attachment. Why do people get involved in all types of different relationships that are unhealthy or immoral? Websites that people go to, clubs that people visit, all these types of things. What is it? They're looking for attachment. The poor child never had a day of attachment in their life. They're looking for attachment. The problem is, it's fake attachment. It's going to explode in my face like the beepers in Lebanon. There's a ticking bomb inside. It's not going to work. Because by definition, I'm not pursuing who I really am, what I'm looking for. I'm finding a nice distraction that for a few days or for a few months, or if I have enough money for a few years, I could numb myself. And fortunate is the person that sees it earlier than later, and they can redirect their yearnings, their loves to their own truth. But there's a lot of replicas, there's a lot of replicas. So that's the B'chal Levavcha. B'chal Nafshecha is a deeper inyan. It's a tshuka, it's a desire that exists in the Nefesh Elokis Levada. That when I'm open to the flow of the divine soul, there's something absolutely transcendent there. He says, his Lashon Alter Rebbe's Lashon, Ein begashmius dugmasa ve'erka klal kiyim l'Hashem levada. Simply that intensity, that frequency of love is not replicated anywhere else. It's only in this source and with the source. Nafshi v'sicha. And he says, this is actually the avodah of tzaddikim. A tzaddik means somebody who's continuously in touch with their divine soul. They never get confused with the klippa. On the contrary, the banana peel is a protection. It's not a substitute. So in a very real way, they see life. There's Hashem, there's the piece of Hashem, me, the divine soul, and there's the animal soul in the body, which is like the Beis HaMikdash. That's why he calls it Heichel Hashem Heimo Klei Beis Hashem. The Beis HaMikdash is the place where the Shechina dwells. Beis HaMikdash is not a klippa. It's a conduit. It's a home. Your animal soul is not a klippa. Klippa in a negative sense. It's a protection. It's a container. How can the divine soul live in the physical world? I have to go to the bathroom. It's a necessity. I need to send circulation. I need to breathe. I need to digest food. I need to sleep. I need to drink. The divine soul is a chelik l'kamimal. So you have a beautiful animal soul to take care of this and to tell you now you're hungry, now you're thirsty, now you're tired, now you need to relax, now you need to go to the bathroom, now you're hot, now you're cold, now you need to put on the air conditioner, now you have to go out for a walk. That's a healthy nefesh habahamis. And it's very, very good. It's a beautiful thing. That's why we never shun the animal soul. That's the whole point. The animal soul is not evil that has to be rejected and obliterated. Even the Yetzer Hara, when you understand really what the Yetzer Hara is, again, it's just the klippa that was given too many jobs that it wasn't supposed to do. The klippa is not supposed to decide, what life is all about. It's too heavy. It's like, I told you, it's like asking the puppy to run the house. It's not fair. The puppy's supposed to be a puppy. He's a cute puppy. Let him be a puppy. We give the klippa so much power. The poor puppy, Vert Meshuga, he has to become a philosopher. Because now he has to figure out what life is, because there's nobody in the house. Then he has to become a psychologist to deal with his anxiety. Then he has to become an expert on everything in the world. Then he has to tell you who you are, who you're not. So the poor puppy has so many burdens, and it develops into something that's completely out of its league. It's going out of its lane. So that's what happens. So of course it gets jealous, it gets spiteful, But these are funny examples, but this is the story of life. This is the Nefesh HaBahamas going crazy and becoming a Yetzer Hara. The Nefesh HaBahamas at its core is not a Ra. It can become a Yetzer Hara, like a little puppy could become a monster. From the barking, it can also start biting, Or could even grow into a German Shepherd. I mean, not the puppy, but another type of dog. Your teufus, so that's B'chol Avavcha, and then there's B'chol Nafshecha. So B'chol Avavcha is with all your heart, including the animal consciousness and the Yetzer Hara. Like it says, every type of Yetzer Hara will be transformed. And it's not just what you shall, it's what will be. V'ahavta, you will love. It's not shayich not. La'yidach imenu nidach. Who you are is who you will be when the blockages are gone. If it's all based on blockages and it's not who you are, so ultimately this is who you will be. When you'll heal, when you'll recover, this is who you're going to be. One of the things you see in the Maimonim, I've seen it over the years, is an incredible thing. A lot of people are in healing journeys these days. The gift of healing. And people sometimes go to pretty deep places, relatively speaking, but people sometimes... And everybody, wherever they go, as deep as they go, the deeper they go, ultimately, what do they come to? They come to the emes in Likkutei Torah. Mamish, this is where... It's like, and if not, they didn't go deep enough. You go a little deeper. The Rebbe Medrash once said, he was the son of the Tzemach Tzedek, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe. So he once said that the world says that there's three klalim. Ein mitzvos trink vert shiker. Somebody who drinks gets inebriated. Ein mitzvos is reich, is meshuga. If you're very rich, you're crazy. And he says, as I'm learned Chassidus, wird man ausgeedelt. If you learn Chassidus, you become refined. And he says, on all three, there's a kasha. You see there's people who drink and they're not drunk. You see there's people who are wealthy and they're not meshuga. And you see there's people who learn Chassidus and they're not refined. There was once, stop. Huh? Yeah, but before I finish, I'm not going to digress, I'll extrapolate. That was the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Rayatz, I'm named after him. So, the father-in-law of the Rebbe. So, his daughter once asked him about a certain chassid, who was considered a big chassid, but his midas were not so refined. So she said, Tata, you say that chassidus refines, but look, she was, upset about something. She says, "Stel sich vor, wie wollt gewinnt unchassidus." Imagine what he would be without. Anyway, so the Rebbe Medrash said on each one there's a kasha. So he says the answer on each one is the same. It's not enough. If he's drinking and he's not drunk, he didn't drink enough. He has to drink more and he'll become drunk. If he's rich and he's not meshuga, hat nicht genug Geld. And darf mehr Geld wird werden meshuga. And said, Chassidus hat nicht gelernt genug Chassidus. So that's the Indian. There's certain things, it's the future. This is where it's going to go. You're not going to go away from it. Lo yidach imenu nidach means I can get lost in a lot of things. But the truth, that there's one truth, there's one reality, that you were conceived in love, that you're part of the love, that you're part of infinity, that's not going to go away. How I get there, that's different choices people make. So you have b'chol avavcha, b'chol nafshach. And then comes the highlight, this was the main point, b'chol meidecha. B'chol meidecha, he says, is not even for a tzaddik. It can't be even a tzaddik. Because b'chol meidecha, ma'oid means infinite. And infinite means it's beyond the nivra. It's beyond creation. It's part of creator. It's ladofka boy. Dvekas in him, and he's Ein Sof. And that's why the love doesn't have a name. It's called ma'oid. Not your heart, not your soul, with your ma'oid. What does your ma'oid mean? Ma'oid means very, with very, your veryness. Gadol Hashem mahulal ma'oid. It says ma'oid on Gadol Hashem. L'gdula soy ein cheker. There's no inquiry. So this love, he says, is even beyond a tzaddik, because the tzaddik experiences the frequency of love in the soul, nefesh. But the nefesh is also a metzias. We call it a soul. We don't call the soul Ein Sof. It's a chelik alaka. It's taka. We always say about the soul, it's Ein Sof, but still you use the word chelik. It's a derivative. It's the way it comes into a soul, a certain form of consciousness. However, you explain chelik alaka mimal, but it's called chelik alaka. You don't just say alaka mimal. So he says, so what does this love have to do with us? He says, this is for a Baal Tshuva. It's not for a tzaddik, it's for a Baal Tshuva. And this is the main nikud in the mind, what the whole union of tshuva is. The union of tshuva is that it shatters the keli. It shatters the metzias. The Gemara says, where the Baal Tshuva stands, the complete tzaddik also can stand. In other words, the Baal Tshuva is higher. So literally the world says it's just a statement. The Alter Rebbe says the statement has the whole explanation. Tzaddikim gemurim. What's the challenge with the tzaddik? That he's a gomor, he's complete. He's a keli shenigmer malachtoi. He's complete, he's whole. He's flawless, he's perfect. Gomor, he's complete. Keli shenigmer malachtoi. A keli shenigmer malachtoi, a keli that its malacha, its design, is complete. The sculpturer, the designer, the goldsmith, the silversmith, the carpenter, the craftsman, the artisan, completed it. Tzaddik gomor. So he says, Va'arehu b'chinas keli. He's a keli. Adayin hem b'chinas keli. And if he's b'chinas keli, so it's a container. It's a container that contains, but it contains that which can go into the keli. By definition, it has parameters. What happened with tshuva? Tshuva, the person is not a keli shenigmer malachta. On the contrary, the keli was broken. The keli was shattered. When the person experienced darkness, this is back to when the klippa hijacks the person. And therefore they become shattered, they're fragmented. They're fragmented into many, many pieces. It's luchas, shivrei luchas. It's like the broken luchas. The luchas that are complete are a keli. The shivrei luchas, that's the tshuva. And then from that darkness, the person experiences truth in a different way, with a different passion, because it's the darkness itself that becomes the fuel, the gasoline, the energy that creates the love. And he says here, this is the amazing, that Shlomo HaMelech says, I've seen that wisdom, I've seen that wisdom is greater than folly, like light is greater than darkness. He says, in Kahelis, which many people read on Sukkot. Really, only Shlomo HaMelech knows that wisdom, being wise, is better than being stupid? Well, today in America, you have to be as smart as Shlomo HaMelech to know that, I guess so. I have the kasha. But the Zohar had the kasha. It says, "V'chi rak Shlomo yoda." And you need only Shlomo to say that light is greater than darkness. I mean, everybody knows they're looking for light. Yeah, you can even ask the bees and the butterflies. Everybody looks for light. Again, today it's not a kasha anymore. You see, not everybody looks for light. So the Alter Rebbe teaches, everybody knows light is greater than darkness. When Moshe Melech is saying the greatest light is the light that comes min. When you say Yisrael Min HaChayshach, you can teach it two ways. Light is greater than darkness, or the greatest light is the one that comes from darkness. Min HaChayshach. That's already a chiddush. In other words, the chemistry of this light is darkness. It's made up of darkness. How can darkness create light? This is the Av of B'chol Meidecha. When a person who appreciates when a person knows what it is that their heart is in prison, and then they manage to come out of that, so every moment of dysfunctionality and every moment of darkness actually not only contributes, but it becomes the very, very foundation. It creates the momentum, and it creates a different type of love and experience. It's hard to explain. It's the love. Inside the love, you could see darkness. That's its power. Because when darkness is fueling the light, it's a different nature of light. It's a different quality of light. When the love is born out of the pain, when the love is born out of the brokenness, there's a crack in everything, and that's what allows the light to come in. When the crack itself generates the relationship, the love, it has a different quality to it. That's the quality of B'chol Meidecha. That's what tshuva is. That's the power of tshuva. This is what he explained. The Gemara says that by tshuva from love, the sins become mitzvahs. How can sins become mitzvahs? It's not fair. The answer is the sin is only a sin when you see it as a sin. When the sin created this tshuva, so now what's the definition of the avoinus? The definition of avoinus is yisinor min hachashach. It's a different type of sin. The sin itself becomes a mitzvah. The sin becomes the tool of the relationship. Of course, through tshuva, it doesn't mean when you're doing the sin. That's what I explained. There's the difference of heksha. When you do the tshuva out of love, it redefines retroactively the sin, the mistake, the failure. It transforms it, yeah. So it's a glorious concept. The failure itself becomes the mitzvah. Because you could have never experienced this type of appreciation, this type of love, this type of longing, this type of pining, this type of authenticity, humility, vulnerability, without the dysfunction. The depth of the dysfunction is what creates the depth of the passion. You have to feel what I'm saying because it's extremely experiential. It's not a philosophy. That's b'chol maidecha. That the tzaddik can do, not because he's a bad guy, because he's a good guy. The tzaddik is a good guy. We have no tightness to the tzaddik. He's an amazing guy. He's a good guy. It's not his chisaron, it's his maila. He's a kelish and nigmar malachta. He keeps the system healthy. It's not a taina to a tzaddik. He keeps the system healthy. He's a kelish and nigmar. He's normal. He's balanced. He's centered. He knows what's good. He knows what's bad. He knows what's poison. He knows what's not poison. He knows who his animal is. He knows who his animal is not. He knows the difference of a banana and a banana peel. So his love is incredible. B'chol avavcha, b'chol nafshecha. But the b'chol maidecha, the ein soif, happens dafka in the avodah of tshuva. Yisinor min hachashach. Because the keli was shattered, and now the shatteredness, the brokenness, is what creates the new awareness. So the awareness is not just the brokenness, is not just an introduction to the awareness. The awareness itself is made up of the brokenness. You understand the difference? It's not the introduction to the sefer. It's much deeper than that. Doinus nasa lekezachias means the mitzvah is made up of the aveda. Verstehst, Rabbi Isaac, verstehst? That's what I was mentioning. We had last night a Zoom with, you on it? You did the meditation? We had a Zoom last night with Fresh Start for people who've been in their program of recovery. So somebody asked, is it tshuva real that when I come, God forgives, when I come 120, it's really going to be erased? Because they always said in the school or wherever that you're going to see a video of everything. So what's going to happen with that chapter in my life? It's going to be an empty video. So they wanted to make sure that God is really, Malach Michal is going to delete that from the video. But Google always keeps a backup. So if Google always keeps a backup, so how does tshuva work? Yeah, that was the question. The person was very worried about this. So I answered, fakert. You want it should show up on the video. You want it to show up on the video. But when after tshuva, you're gonna look at it, you're gonna see it differently. You're gonna say, that was my greatest moment. You don't need to delete it from the video. You want to bring it into the videos. Doinus nasu like kazachias. That's the vart. Of course it's going to be on your video, but it's going to be recontextualized. The reka, the background is going to be different. The whole experience is going to be different. You could look at it and say, that was my lowest moment. Or you could look at it and say, Yasher koichecha sheshibarta. Yasher koichecha sheshibarta. Thank you for breaking it. So you say, come on, what's the thank you? You ruined yourself, you ruined others, you destroyed your life. Bis meshuga? That's true. That's true. That's the grief and the tears and the remorse. But the tshuva me'ava is the rebirth that happens through that. And the rebirth that happens through that, nothing can compare to that. And whoever is involved in this work knows how true this is. There's nothing that compares to it. You don't tell the tzaddik to do that. You don't tell the tzaddik, go destroy your life so you can rebuild it. That's not what you do. Right? You don't put a kid into a crazy situation so you could become, So you can heal and then become. That's not what you do. Al Tevienu, we say in the morning, Al Tevienu, Leila de Nisayan, Leila de Nisayan, Leila de Vizayan, Al Yishlit Bani Yetzahara. Al Tevienu, Leila de Chet, Leila de Aveda, Va'aven. You don't go in to a sick place so you can get sick, so you can build up your antibodies against the illness. You don't do that. Because a lot of things can happen, you know what I mean? I can get sick and not build antibodies. And even if, why am I wasting my time being sick? That's true. But some of us, it's already la'achrei amais. Especially when the avodah of tshuva is not even about your own mistakes. It's about mistakes that happen in life that you didn't even have choice. So it's really God wanted you to be a Baal tshuva. You have to understand that too. It's not like every 4-year-old decides which avodah they're going to have. They don't decide that. Very few people have that luxury. So essentially the journey of life is the Baal tshuva. And I would say in our generation, probably most people, it's the avodah of tshuva. Even though in everyone there's also a tzaddik, and you have that too, but generally it's the avodah of tshuva. It's the healing that comes from the brokenness. And by the way, I'm going to give a plug if there's people who may have a hard time going into Yom Kippur. Somebody asked a very powerful question. You heard Leah's question. She was abused and everything, and she's going to say, Hashamnu bagadnu al chet, al chet. She didn't do any of these sins. They were all done to her. She was betrayed. Everything was done to her. She didn't do anything to anybody else. So I try to do a guided meditation about how to understand it, because it's really a conversation with your own soul. Anyway, I'm just going to give a commercial plug for the class last night. It's on the yeshiva.net with Fresh Start. It may be very helpful, especially if you know somebody who goes into Yom Kippur and they have a lot of trauma, especially al chet, mitashamnu, and confession, and it brings just up bad memories and self-guilt and self-shame and self-loathing. I think it could be very helpful. I actually said over a piece from a Maimer that we once learned, Shiramalis Mimamakim, about what confession is. Dank. So that's b'chol ma'adecha. That was the main point. And he says that's why being humble is the key. Have a shval ruach b'fnei kol adam. Why were Chazal so? Because it's all about humility. The moment I'm feeling arrogant around people, then the brokenness is not there anymore. And whenever there's no crack, there's no light. Whenever I'm like this, whenever there's no crack, there's no light. Right? So hafla de kavart, right? V'hevi shval ruach b'fnei kol adam. It's humility. It's the humility. It's that ability to be able to see things from a humble perspective, and then a person is capable of experiencing the ava of b'chol ma'adecha, which is deeper than a tzaddik. I saw a voice from the Zidditscheiver. Reb Tzvi Hirsch of Zidditscheiv. I think I saw it from him. He says, it's a real Chassidish of art. It says like this. It says, Vayaver Hashem al panav vayikra. Vayikra Hashem kel rachem v'chanan. Frag the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. I think it's Daf Yud Ches, Daf Yud Zayin, somewhere in that zip code. Why does it say Hashem twice? Hashem. Whenever it says twice, you have to know why. So the Gemara says, Kan koidem sheyechta, kan la'achar sheyechta. The first Hashem, which is Midas HaRachamim, compassion, is before you sin. The second one is after you sin. Frek de Rosh, what do you need compassion before you sin? After you sin, you need compassion, you need Rachamim. But before you sin, you don't need Rachamim. So the Gemara says, koidem sheyechta, what do you need for? That's what he says. So I think the Rosh answers, because God knows you're going to sin. The Zidditscheiver says, you know why you need compassion before you sin? Before you sin, you need more compassion because you become arrogant. Ich bin nicht kein Choyte, ich bin a Tzaddik. He says, then you really need Rachamim. La'achar sheyechta is the halbe tzara. At least now you're normal, you're vulnerable. Before you sin, he says, that's the danger. He says, now you need me to say Rachamim. This is the... Sometimes the uptightness of somebody who's living a perfect life is so deep, they never touch the texture of vulnerability. They never touch the texture of humility. And sometimes that's the biggest clip in the world, because it becomes the protective mechanism of, we don't go to these places. We have it all worked out. You know, when somebody says, we have it all worked out. In our family, it's all worked out. You know that, right? It's all worked out. This doesn't happen here. It happens everywhere else. It doesn't happen here. We have it all worked out. And usually when those skeletons are going to come out, I don't want to be there. Because they're going to be very, very deep. Fakert. The depth of the fear of touching it is because what's going to be there. Your system knows. The system is very smart. The clip is very smart. It knows not to go certain places. So that's even when it's all one big lie, a sham. Here the chiddush is even a tzaddik. We're talking about a real person. We're not talking about a keli that's a sham. I'm just trying to protect myself. We're talking about a real keli. It's a keli of elikus, but still not b'chol meidach. And the last nekud is, that's why the Gemara says, kol yom of b'tshuva. A person should be his whole life in tshuva. Or yafer shachas b'tshuva ma'asim tovim b'olam hazeh mikol chai olam haba. One moment of tshuva in this world is better than the whole olam haba. How could you say that? The whole purpose is to get to olam haba. The Alter Rebbe says no, because b'yud nivra olam haba. Olam haba was created with a yud. What does it mean created with a yud? It's a flow, an energy that comes from one letter of Hashem's name. Kinizgav shmoy levadai, hoydai al eretz v'shamayim. Eretz is this world, Shemayim is the next world. Hoydai is the ray, the glory, the ziv ha-shchina. And that's a yud rehei. But then we say, Vayoram karen l'amay till bnei Yisrael am kroivai. So his lashon was, there's something am kroivai, and that is am kroivai shal muhusay v'atzmusay kevayachal mamash aydei tshuva me'aver rabel adovka boy mamash. Bein soif baruch hu levada. Am kroivai means the intimacy with Atzmus Ein Sof, with the essence of Ein Sof, which you achieve only through tshuva, out of love, which creates ladofka boy dveikus in the Ein Sof, beyond the tzaddik gomor, the avoid of tshuva. And only this redeems trauma. Only this. Only this really heals the depth of the dysfunctionality, because nothing else can really heal it. At best, the person can get out of it, can change, which is itself amazing. I'm not minimizing that. But what really allows you to look back and say, Oidcha Hashem ki anafta bi. Thank you for this journey. How can a normal person say it? It says when Mashiach comes, we're going to look back and say, Oidcha Hashem ki anafta bi. Are you cuckoo? Are you crazy? So yeah, I could be grateful for where I am now. But how could you be grateful for where you were? How could you be grateful for that? Or to put it differently, how can the Aveira be a mitzvah? And there's only one, I don't want to even use the word answer, because it's not an answer, it's an experience. But the truth is that what really happens in real transformation is that the depth of the darkness is the depth of the light. So then you look back at the darkness and say, wow, thank you. If the depth of the darkness is the depth of the light, and the deeper the darkness, the deeper the light, so the darkness is re-experienced. It's re-experienced completely differently. And every moment of that darkness is essentially a moment of gratitude, of gratefulness. This doesn't mean it wasn't painful, it was very painful. It's the shatteredness that created this love, so the pain is there. But even the pain itself, the depth of that pain is from what the love is made up of. It's not there's pain that led to love. If you take an x-ray of the love, what is fueling the love, the DNA of that love is the pain. It's the darkness, it's the dysfunctionality. This is not to romanticize chas v'shalom a person's pain, but it's to explain the process of how this type of transformation works. Me'az yatsa masak, me'vart nach vadam. In Jewish history, it's hard to see it at the moment. That's why Mashiach will see it, at least a little bit of it. But sometimes in a person's individual life, we get a taste of it. You get a little taste of it. And this is not, you see, this is not spiritual bypassing. Some of you, hey, Alts is good, Gamzul Taiva, it's good. That's not the part. If you spiritually bypass, you could never reach this. This is the opposite of bypassing. You understand? It's not, it's all good, I'm thankful, Hashem had the most amazing life. And they'll quote the Belzerov, and they'll quote the Bzushan, they'll quote the Noam Elimelech, and they'll quote the Tzanzer, and Allah Heile Kayidin. Right? But they do word spiritually bypassing. That's coming because I'm not ready to face certain things, and I get it. It's not judgmental. We all do this. But this is the opposite. This is I could look at everything and actually hold space for it and see the depth of the dysfunctionality. I'm not bypassing anything. And that's why it's so real, because it brings everything with it. I think there's a word from Reb Tzaddik. I may have mentioned it last night. I don't remember. I mentioned it. He says, well, at the end of Likkutei, you turn around. Yeah. So he says, people run into Shabbos. They say, wait, before you go, turn around and take everything. Take everything with you. It's time to turn around. Take it all with you. Sometimes people who are Bali Tshuva, literal term, here the term Bali Tshuva is an experience. It doesn't have to do where you were born and how you were raised. But sometimes Bali Tshuva, they grew up secular, become Bali Tshuva, they're embarrassed with their past. Because shidduchim, you want to integrate. So Tzaddik says, Avraham Avinu wasn't embarrassed with his past. That's what made Avraham Avinu. Go back, turn around, don't run away. Turn around, it's all part of your experience. What do you have to run away from? This is what made you you. Since this is what made you you, you don't have to escape it. Sorry. And there's a vart here. The Alter Rebbe says a vart. He says that when the person is in prison and they come out of the prison, the prison itself is what creates the ishtapchus hanefesh. The recognition of the locks that they're breaking out of and going into a place of ear, of openness, right? That hishtapchus hanefesh is of a different magnitude. It's made up of a different nature. Like I gave the example, somebody has been underwater and under a rock for decades, and then they come out. It's just, you can't describe the tainuk, the bliss, the love. Every moment they were under the rock contributes to the love. It's a different type of oxygen. They're taking it in differently. And I hope you don't only understand what I'm saying, but you're even feeling it a little bit. But if not, it's also fine. Don't judge yourself. Yeah, coming out of the rock, yeah. We can't figure it out with our brains. Our brains we understand. It's the experiential coming out of the rock. It's the heart coming out of the rock. It's the body coming out of the rock. I quoted last night something I heard from my wife. She said, it's not the psychology that's blocking me, it's the biology that's blocking me. Sometimes people, psychology, they know everything, but the biology is blocking them. The body has a lot of trauma. Cellular trauma. And sometimes it's not even so deep. The Baal Shem Tov, you say, Azav Tazav Imai. You have to help the donkey. Don't run away from the donkey, help the donkey. So the Baal Shem Tov teaches, Chamor is Chaimer. Don't run away from the body, help the body. So I grew up with this. The Rebbe would always say this from the Baal Shem Tov. I never understood the depth of it. What the Baal Shem Tov was saying is, there's no avodas Hashem without the chamor, without the chaimer, without the guf. Because what happens is you live in your brain, and Ashkenazic Jews are very good at that. And the brain has it all figured out, but the body is completely not there. Your wife walks into the room, the body is triggered. Your brain says the right thing. The brain knows, but the body is triggered. Your child walks in, the body is triggered. You go here, the body is triggered. There's no healing in the body. And these are terrible, these are very profound blockages that happen. The body stores the terror, the dread, the disappointment, the frustration, the annoyance, the anxiety. It's all in the body. So the Baal Shem Tov said, Azav Tazav Imai. Don't run away from your chamar. You got to work with your chamar, with your chaimer. Hashem told Avram Avinu, Koila Shatamer Lecha Sarah Shma B'Koila. Whatever Sarah says, listen to her. So the Rebbe once said, it says in Zohar, Avram is the neshama and Sarah is the guf. Hashem was telling Avram, whatever your guf tells you, you have to listen. So what's pshat? Whatever my guf tells me now, I want chocolate. My guf tells me now, I want to lie. My guf tells me now, I want to eat cheesecake. You should listen to it, you shouldn't listen to it. But Avram and Sarah, it says they were already me'ein olam haba. So the guf, they knew that the guf is completely in tune with its own truth. Sometimes my body itself, it's like the banana peel, my body is out of whack. It doesn't know even what it wants. It just knows it wants comfort. So I'm having a stressful day, so the body says, just go eat. You finish eating, the body says, now go eat again. You finish that, the body goes back to the refrigerator. You know when people open the refrigerator every 10 minutes, as though in between, man fell down from heaven and filled up the refrigerator. What do you think happened to your refrigerator in the last 10 minutes? Your wife went shopping mysteriously, together with Eliyahu Hanavi, and filled up your refrigerator with food. It doesn't have to do. But everybody's laughing because we all do it. You go back to the refrigerator. What happened to the refrigerator? The same fahakta milk and orange juice that's 3 months old is still there with a few pickles. That's it. You don't have anything else in your refrigerator. Eat pickles. Maybe there's lettuce somewhere in the bottom drawer. The answer is because the body just... Let's look again. Maybe we'll look again. We'll look deeper into Tosfos, into the Marsha. We'll find some food behind the refrigerator. You'll do some b'dikas chametz. But the point is, I'm not respecting my body. My body learned to develop comfort mechanisms. We want to be comfortable. It doesn't want to be comfortable. So the reaction to pain is you go to the refrigerator. That's not azav tazav imai. That's actually allowing the body to distract itself more. It's like the animal that creates crazy habits. But azav tazav imai means to listen to what's really inside the body. And then from there comes all the oir, all the healing. Ani v'reichav al hachamar. The Rabbi used to teach that Mashiach is going to be nizgala through the chamar, through the body. It's a paladika thing because therapy now is moving away from words to the body. Al pi chassidus, the whole gili of Mashiach is ani v'reichav al hachamar, through the chamar, through the chaimer, through the guf. Because the ultimate gili al lakus is going to be in the guf, and not only that, it says in chassidus that Mashiach comes neshama nizaynis min haguf. Now the guf gets its nourishment from the soul. The soul is going to get its nourishment from the body. In other words, there's going to be something that's going to come out in the body that is so real, is so powerful, like atzmos. Yeah, you're done. Good. I'm just talking, it's fine. The guf has koyach atzmos, so that's going to feed the neshama. I'll call upon him. So that's the whole inyan of the tshuva of b'chol maidacha. Yeah. Yeah, very good. Very good. There's a beautiful word from the Rabbi Yitzchak of Badichev. It's a hafladike word. But Yitzchak Badichev says as in Kedushas Levi he says it. According to the Maimah, you understand it in a way of Chachma bin Adas. Alter Rebbe explained it. But the Badichev says as a word. It says about Sukkah. He's going to mention it also here in a different context. It says about Sukkahs. It says Lekachtem lechem bayom harishon pri eitz hada kapes tmara manaf eitz avos arvei nachal. On the first day of Sukkot, you should take the 4 minim, because only in the Beis Hamikdash there was a mitzvah to take the arba minim 7 days. Everywhere outside of the Beis Hamikdash, the mitzvah was only the first day. After the Churban Beis Hamikdash, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana that everybody should shake lulav for 7 days. Zeichel Hamikdash. We should remember how it was in the Beis Hamikdash. But really, besides the first day, it's not a mitzvah midayat Torah, only midivrei seif. This is takana of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wanted to ensure that the memory of the Beis Hamikdash remains alive in the Jewish collective memory and consciousness, so he made different takanas, Zeichel Hamikdash. This was one of them, Shake a lulav 7 days. So the Medrash says, why does the Torah use, it's in Parshas Emer, why does the Torah use the words L'kachtem lechem bayom harishon, the first day? It should say the 15th of Tishrei. So he says, the Medrash says, Medrash Rabbah, Rishon l'cheshbon avonos. It's the first day when God calculates your sins. Sukkot is the first day, Rishon for avonos. It's like a new balance sheet. We start calculating. So, why? So it's explained because Yom Kippur everybody is forgiven, so there's no sins anymore. 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, everybody is busy. Nobody has time to sin. You're building a sukkah, you're checking a lulav, you put the esrog under a magnifying glass. Yeah, I was once buying an esrog somewhere, so it was in Crown Heights years ago. So there was this guy. I came he was there. Later he was there. So the dealer tells me that it's shindakim at 12 shah. He's there almost 12 hours looking for an esrog. So somebody in the store was a let's. He says he spends more time on choosing his esrog than he did on choosing his wife. So the guy says, absolutely, absolutely. It was a very funny comment. In any case, so the 4 days everybody is busy. You have to build a sukkah, you have to get food. So who has time to sin? Nobody has time. It's phenomenal. Come sukkahs, now you're relaxed. That's the chavek in the sukkah. So now you could bring in a juicy lashon hara, a juicy rechilas, another nice haveda. The 4 days is hectic. Everybody is stressed. But sukkahs is rishon l'cheshbon avonos. It's a modna medrash. The Torah has no other way of defining the first day of Sukkot, the day when everybody starts sinning again. Like, what if somebody sits in the sukkah and they're not going to speak, they're not going to sit? Maybe they'll sing, maybe they'll dance, maybe they'll learn a maimer on Sukkot, maybe they'll fabreng. Such a pessimistic view that's how the Torah, the first day when we're cheshbon avonos. Huh? Very good. So the Likkutei Baditsheva says something, a hafla de kavart. In Kedushas Levi he says that the Gemara says there's tshuva me'yira and tshuva me'yava. There's tshuva out of awe and tshuva out of love. As we learned here, tshuva out of love is doinus nasa like kazachias. The sins become mitzvahs. It says that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur could still be tshuva me'yira, tshuva out of awe. The whole avoid of Sukkot is love, as the Maimah is going to continue. Yeminoi techapkeni. So what happens in Sukkot? Zdoinus nasa like kazachis. The sins become mitzvahs. When tshuva is done out of fear, it says God erases the sins. When tshuva is done out of love, the sins become mitzvahs. So he says like this, by Yom Kippur, the sins are gone. But now comes Sukkot. Now it's tshuva meyava. So what has to be? So now you have to bring back all the sins. Rishon l'cheshbon avonos. So now you go back, now you make a cheshbon of the sins. Fakert. Now all the sins become mitzvahs. So rishon l'cheshbon avonos. Now you start making a cheshbon of the avonos. By Yom Kippur you threw them away. Now you bring them back. That's the vort. That's b'chol moedcha. But this is an experiential process. It's an experiential process where my failure and my darkness actually becomes the stuff from which my love and relationship is built. So of course it's rishon l'cheshbon avonos. That's why I said don't get rid of that video. That video you want to play front and center. That's the video that made you. That's a very, very good question. So that's one of the deepest Yetzer Haras and one of the most beautiful and holy Yetzer Haras, but it's a Yetzer Hara. To hold on to the story. He's saying sometimes this darkness has such a depth to it that you don't want to transform it. In other words, sometimes a person feels, you have to ask yourself the question, who will I be without my darkness? Who will I be without all my stories? Who will I be without my pain? And sometimes a person feels without that, I'm going to be nobody. It's almost the pain that gives me, it made me me. It gives me so much richness, so much sensitivity, so much depth, so much empathy. It makes me so much smarter than everybody else in shul. Because nobody understands pain like me. So it's very tempting that when we go into awareness and we hold on to the pain, and even though we're saying we're holding on to the pain just to be aware of it, my whole life I wasn't aware of it, now I'm going to be aware of it, but now comes a new challenge. The challenge is I'm holding on so tight I'm not ready to let go. And I'm afraid that without the pain there's going to be nothing left. And the truth is the opposite. The truth is that that's part of the trauma, that the pain makes me believe that without the pain I'm going to be a boring, dull, simple, garnished. It's the last effort of trauma to keep you in trauma. I'm not anymore stuck by the pain, but I'm aware of it. And I know how bad it is. And I can always, if you ever ask me, who are you? I'll right away go to the pain. That's really a victory of the pain. It's a victory of the trauma. Nothing of this is said in a judgmental way because it's a very deep process of letting go. It's not so easy. So after all the healing and after all the awareness is the last step, and that is, I want to hold on to it. I want to hold on to it. Huh? Oh, that's even a deeper thing. Sometimes a person says, there's no witness to the abuse. If somebody was molested as a kid, yeah, there was no witness, there was no video camera. He denies it. Yeah. Everybody else denied it. The parents denied it. He denied it. The whole Kehillah denied it. There's only one Meshugana who knows the truth, the child. If I let go of the pain, you know what I'm letting go of? I'm letting go of the last witness to the story. How can I do that? There's no other witness. It's not like there's witnesses everywhere, for Kiddush HaChodesh who are going to tell the story. I'm the only witness. And what's the witness? Pain. Because the boy also doesn't remember the story, maybe. The only witness that he has to the craziness, to the evil, is his pain, is his trauma, is all of his mishagas, and the fact that I'm disassociated or detached or numb or paralyzed or a people's pleaser, whatever it is, all this crazy behavior of mine, it's the only aidus that's left to the pain. You want me to kill this aid? Now, that's a very deep question. That's not so simple.
Sometimes people want to push through the process and to let go from the pain earlier.
That's true. That's why you have to be very careful. That's why it's so subtle. It's so subtle. Because sometimes people tell you, let go of the pain, but it's not coming because you were healed. It's coming because it's too painful. And they just want to get rid of it. But again, that's called bypassing. So there's a very, very delicate balance between holding space for it, acknowledging it, embracing it, grieving for it, processing it through your body, allowing all the grief that comes with it, and then coming out on the other side and said, yes, this made me who I am, and now I could let go. Let go doesn't mean you forget. Let go doesn't mean it never happened. Let go doesn't mean there's no witness. Let go means that the witness does not constitute my internal identity. Of course it happened, and I'm never going to deny it, and I'm never going to let anybody else be deceptive and hijack my truth and my authenticity. But it means that you without your pain and trauma, you're infinite. You're not going to lose your richness. On the contrary, the pain is going to become an essential part of your dveikus in Ein Sof. Don't worry about it. You're not going to lose anything. On the contrary, the pain will go back to the source of everything. So if you're really looking to hold on to the pain, you're going to hold on to the beauty that came from it in an incredible way. But you're not going to be defined anymore by the negativity. And that's liberation. You don't have to worry that there's no witness. You know why you don't have to worry there's no witness? So now I'm going to say this and take it in a very sensitive way. You only need a witness to the destruction that occurred, but you managed not to be destroyed anymore. So you don't need a witness anymore. You don't need a witness. You need a witness to destruction. But for you, nobody destroyed you. The destruction that happened became your greatest strength. And for that, everybody is a witness. So you'll say, but what about that crook and that lowlife who's getting away with murder? Okay. So if you don't want him to get away with murder and it's the right thing to do, fine. Do what you have to do. Nobody's trying to erase it from your memory. But that's not part of my identity. You know why it's not part of my identity? Because he doesn't control me anymore. But this is a process. This is not, you can't snap your finger and reach it. So there's a time that we can let go of the pain. We can't. We need to process it. We need to hold on to it. But then there's a deeper space, a much deeper space, where the person actually processed it and they don't have to hold on. They can let go. They can go into a place of trust, of love. And nothing is going to be lost from their personality. You don't have to worry. They'll be as interesting and as engaging, but much more present. Did I answer your question? Or not really?
Sorry, but he meant something else.
Oh, okay. So go ahead.
Sometimes people have a whole long story about their darkness.
Yeah.
There's that story and it can be transformed. What happens when there's no words or there's no
Oh.
When someone doesn't have the catalyst to actually
Oh, yeah.
You get a normal life and what's there to be transformed.
Does it
Everything
have to
is
be
normal,
that
but
the
the pain
person
is
is
so
in
deep.
denial?
There's pain like all of those stories, but there's no story.
That's a powerful question. Sometimes a person has a story. So there's something to work with. There's something to transform. Sometimes there's no story. Everything is geschmack. So what's there to transform, right? That's your question. So who says there's something to transform? Maybe it's taka good. There's something going on. So what's going on?
You have to be able to identify it.
So if nothing is going on, nothing is going on. But there's something going on. Something is going on for a reason. It's not going on for no reason. There's something our system is telling us. The body is creating an awareness of something. There's an alarm. You know, when the alarm is ringing, it's saying something. It's saying something. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Our body is a smoke detector.
You have to be able to identify it though in order to actually.
That's a great question.
Can it be from a feeling of guilt or maybe?
Right. Do I have to identify the story? Do I have to go into the story? And what if it's a previous Gilgul? And what if it's generational trauma? And what if it's epigenetics? And what if it's something not even that happened in this lifetime, as you said? And what happens if it is, but it's pre-verbal, etc., etc.? All these answers, all these questions. So I think, we know, I don't think it's really about knowing the story. Sometimes it's helpful for information. It's about the havoc that the story created in my system now. Trauma is never about what happened. I mean, of course it's about what happened. It's about what's happening right now. Yeah, exactly. The darkness is what lives in me, the demon, the shadim that live inside of me right now. The story may have been the beginning. It created the domino effect. It's the person I could blame, and maybe very justifiably. But that's not really what's happening. Yeah, it's not the action, it's the reaction. Now, this is not to minimize the action, because the reaction was a reaction to the action. And sometimes being aware of that action is helpful in the sense that you don't blame yourself, you don't shame yourself, you don't think that you're the crazy person, you respect yourself. So there's a very, very powerful, very, very special experience in knowing that. And that's why it's very special. But sometimes it's not available. And sometimes it doesn't have to be available. What is always available is what's happening right now inside of me. And that's the darkness, yeah. The other person's darkness is not my darkness. The other person's darkness, however, he injected or she injected into me, that became my darkness. That's where the real trauma is, The churban is that I injected somebody else's poison and I made it mine, and now that's the only thing I know about. So that's the key. That's the real key. And then once I could process that, which is a journey, and I could really, really process it and come out from it, so then it's not my darkness anymore. There's a memory, perhaps, or not. There is deep awareness of what I experienced. Not only that, all of my experiences will become part of my liberation, but I'm not anymore that person. I don't have to be that person. And I'm not anymore because I'm embarrassed or I'm denying. I'm not denying anything. On the contrary, that made me who I am. But I don't want to remain, even for a moment, stuck in that paradigm. I don't think that it's a mitzvah's essay, the Iraisa, the Rabbanan, to find out every story. Sometimes you could, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you don't have to. Not that it's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. It may have created a churban. But it's irrelevant in the sense that what's much more relevant is now, right now. What's happening right now? What are the obstructions right now? Why can't I feel now? Why is my heart closed now? Why am I so triggered now? Why am I overwhelmed now? Why am I anxious right now? What's going on right now? Why am I so triggered right now? Let's say you do know a story. Again, it helps to know that you're not meshuga, which is a very big thing, by the way. People stop blaming themselves. It's a tremendous tool. It's a tremendous element of growth in self-respect. It's unbelievable. That's why it's so helpful. But regardless, this way or that way, what the key is, what's happening right now inside of me. And that pain is very, very real. Sometimes in different journeys, people see stories, but the stories didn't necessarily happen, but they're all metaphors. There's a whole big machlokes about this, when people remember stories through different experiences, how true they are, how true they're not. And I think, everybody could say that in some cases it's really true, in some cases not necessarily. But when you say not necessarily true, it just means that may have not happened, but that represents in your mind what happened. Exactly. The effect inside of me is exactly as though it happened. That's why you saw that. It may be that exact Metzias didn't happen that way. A person saw that Pliny ben Pliny did X, Y, Z on this particular night to him when he was 7 years old. Maybe, yeah. Don't minimize it. Maybe, yeah. Maybe not. But not that it's irrelevant, but it is irrelevant in the sense the pain is real. In your system, you experience life as though at 7 years old, this and this happened. Is it a metaphor? Maybe it's a metaphor. But your body, your brain was telling you that this is what happened. This is the pain that broke you. So maybe it happened differently. Maybe it was words. Maybe it was not physical. Maybe it was emotional. Maybe it happened in a much more subtle way. Maybe because of your sensitivity, you reinterpreted it. Maybe another 1,000, 100,000 ways it can happen. You know what? The pain is real. People go to extremes. Either it happened literally, and if you say it didn't happen literally, you're destroying me. It's not true. It may have happened literally. It may have not happened literally, but the pain happened literally. And that's what counts. You know why? Because that's what's living in me. I'm living in a body and in a soul that had an experience that is bedoimah to that experience. And that's why my brain came up with this story. Even if it's only a metaphor, so it's a metaphor. We don't make machap meshalem. Meshalem are powerful. They tell you what's going on. You understand what I'm saying? This is very, very important. And this is because it's the truth. This is the truth. Because you see sometimes situations where people saw paradoxical things. They couldn't have both happened. This happened, that happened, and they couldn't both be. So one of them is a metaphor. So maybe the other one is a metaphor. Sometimes people see things. A therapist told me he went on a journey with somebody, and it was 3:00 in the morning, and it was a woman, and she experienced an experience where her mother did some horrible, horrible, horrible things, and she called her mother 3:00 in the morning. She woke her up, and she asked her mother, she said, is this what you did to me? You destroyed my life. And the mother broke down and confessed. Now, she's lucky her mother confessed. In most cases, there's absolute denial. So she saw exactly what happened. But there's other cases where it's not the case. And that's why it's always a wise thing that people shouldn't reach conclusions right away, and it doesn't minimize pain. It's not a lack of respect. On the contrary, it's a respect for the fact that I've been through a lot, but exactly was, vu, ven, vi, I don't know. People sometimes the next day, they saw something, they make a call, they break up with they destroy their relationship with their entire family, they don't speak to anybody ever again. Now there may be very good reason for that. There may be a bunch of criminals, a bunch of mafiosa gangsters who all belong in prison. Maybe, but maybe not. Right? But the work of healing is not about that. The work of healing is not knowing who the criminal is. It's important. And maybe the guy needs to go to prison. I'm not minimizing that. I don't minimize these stuff. Call the police and put them in prison. That's where they belong, these people. But the real story is what's happening inside of me. That's my story. The fact that he's a criminal, if he is, he should be tried. If he's not, I'm still living with some darkness. Maybe he's not a criminal. Maybe he was just out for lunch, or she was out for lunch, and this poor baby was just completely abandoned, and that's painful enough. Make sense what I'm saying? I think this is more or less important. I think this is important to understand. So the Bechol Moedecha, this Av of Bechol Moedecha, is so powerful because it takes along all the experiences, but instead of turning them into something that makes me stuck, it turns it into something, Rishon L'Chashben Avonos, turns it into something that really becomes the true power and the true glory and the true love of a person. I just want to give one haisaf on the word of the Baditchever, which I find fascinating. I don't remember if I heard this from the Rebbe or I saw it somewhere else. What do we do on Rosh Hashanah? We do tashlich. What's tashlich? V'sashlich b'mitzulas yam kol chataisa. You throw into the water all the sins. Yeah, you cast it into the water. Whatever that means. Whatever that means. They say a story. It's a very funny story. A guy told me that there was somebody who called himself a Rebbe, a big Rebbe. And he went for tashlich. It starts off with a story with the Rebbe Reb Melech. That they say the Rebbe Reb Melech went for tashlich, and when he left, Chassidim jumped into the water. They said, "Me willen kriegen the Rebbe's avedas. We want the Rebbe's sins." So they say, so somebody said a good joke that there was somebody who considered himself a big Rebbe, and he also went for tashlich, and he went and he left, and all the Chassidim jumped in and they started to kill each other because they were fighting for the place. So the Rabbi said, "Nish gedaige, man darf sich nicht stippen, so da genig für alle men." You don't have to push, there's enough Avedas for everybody to go around. Okay. Not bad. So, you guys have too much hana from this joke, it's not a good sign. Huh? You're having too much simcha from this joke. Okay. It's very true. So we throw away into the water all our sins. That's Rosh Hashanah. What was the mitzvah on Sukkot? Simchas Beis HaSheva. What's Simchas Beis HaSheva? You know what they used to do? From the first day of Sukkot, every morning they went down to the well and they drew water and they brought it to the Beis HaMikdash and they put it on the Mizbeach. What are you looking for in the water? What's this new avodah? And since when do people start dancing all night because you're pouring water? I never heard. Maybe if you would give wine, verstehe you dance. Purim, you drink wine. Sukkot, the dancing is the water. Since when does water make people dance? I've seen wine make people dance. But the avodah of Sukkot was not yayin. Every day they poured wine. Sukkot was mayim. So here's the Oime Ka'inyan, what he's saying here. Rosh Hashanah could be tshuva me'ira. So you throw away your sins into the water. Sukkot is tshuva me'ava. So now you got to go back to the water and reclaim all the sins. When they were shoyev the water, they were drawing the water. It wasn't just the water. They were drawing everything that was thrown into the water. And now you bring this to the Mizbeach. This becomes divine. This becomes an avodah. Not only an avodah, you're dancing all night before. Was tanzt du? What are you dancing? It says, Mish le'rasim chis b'shev le'rasim ch'miyamav. Because the b'chol ma'idecha is a different type of simcha. It's an element of infinity. There's an ein sof in it. That's why it's a different type of joy. It's the explosive joy of tshuva. Not avodas tzaddikim. It's the avodah of tshuva. As he's going to say in the next, that's what comes only after Yom Kippur. Elu ve'elu emrim. The nusach in Maseches Sukkah. What they say by Simchas Beis HaSheva? Ashrei mi shaloichata u'mi shach. Oh yeah, that's what you mean. U'mi shachata yashav yimchalai. Everything that they were saying was about tshuva. Why are you talking about that? People are coming to dance. What do you have to talk about? Who sinned? Who didn't sin? Tshuva. So here you see, Taka, even in Nigla, that this is the whole avodah. It was going back. It's going back to the water. So in a person's life, that's a very, very profound sentiment. It's a very profound experience. I threw everything away, which is always the step one, this disengagement, the disentangling. I am not this. I am not the dysfunction. I am not my mistakes. I am not the sin. I am not my anxiety. That's disentanglement. And then there's something even deeper, and that's you going back. You go back and you reclaim everything. Bring it all up to the Mizbeach. And that creates a Bechol Moedecha. That's a Ma'oi, that's a different type of inyan. Yeah, as long as it's not sorted out, if it's not unblended, you can't bring it back, it's dangerous. Right? That's why it's so important to be able to unblend it, to be able to see the difference. And then the person could really go to a place where the very brokenness becomes a different type of keli. It's not a keli shenigmar melachtai. It's a keli for Ein Sof. The only type of keli that can be a keli for Ein Sof is a keli that's broken. If a keli is whole, it's a beautiful thing. We like kelim that are whole. I could drink a coffee because this is whole. We're not upset. But it's not a keli for Ein Sof. The only keli for Ein Sof is when the keli gets cracked and it opens up. So now infinity could flow through it. Huh? Was sagst du? Yeah. Yeah. So when the cracks show up, it's the vulnerability, the surrender that opens up the keli. There's no keli anymore. There's no walls. The walls were broken. The walls were broken. Right? And it's also in a person's life. Sometimes we all have boundaries that have to be protected. Every person has walls, good walls. It's called a chayma. Chaymas Yerushalayim. Oymani chayma. A child needs to have boundaries. The boundaries have to be protected. Some of the pain that people went through is a breach of boundaries. The chayma was penetrated. We fast Asar B'Tevis. That's when the Babylonians besieged Yerushalayim. Shivasa B'Tammuz, they breached the wall. What does it mean they breached the wall? They breached the boundaries. Right? When somebody takes his hand and puts it in an inappropriate place in somebody else's body, they breach the boundary. If you're eating soup and I put my spoon in and I take from your soup, it's a breach of boundaries. Right? If you're standing and I walk up to you and it's something called healthy boundaries. It's a chayma. This is a keli. A keli has boundaries. Every person needs a keli. A tzaddik is somebody who's aligned. They protect their boundaries. A child's boundaries have to be protected. When they're young, they can't do it on their own. They have to be taught to do it, and hopefully they'll do it. But very often they don't know. Right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So those walls have been broken. There's no walls anymore. And when there's no walls, everybody could just come in straight into my system. So I don't have boundaries. It's also when we grow older, right? When with no boundaries, right? So whatever anybody says goes right into my system. If it goes right into my system, sometimes I'm living off your words, your energy. I don't know who I am, who you are, and it's a very painful way of living. I'm living off other people's passions and emotions, like living vicariously off other people because there's no boundaries. When there's boundaries, you can open the door and say, come in. Now this goes out. This doesn't come into my system. But this is a lot. You have to know how it works. So many ways when the boundaries have been breached, it's the destruction of the person. The keli is full of cracks. There's no boundaries anymore. What does b'chol ma'adecha mean? Also no boundaries, also no keli, but in the opposite way. What happens is, and this is where the very negativity becomes the chemistry, the energy from which the divine experience is created. The person becomes an ayin. From yesh, you go into ayin. Because there's no walls that contain me. So the destruction really created a metzius of ayin, complete surrender, complete vulnerability to the only source of Ein Sof, who's also outside of Kalim, who also has no boundaries. So now, the lack of boundaries aligns me with the source of Ufaratzta, Yamav, Akedma, Tzafayna, Negba, without boundaries. It says Yaakov is Nachala B'li Mitzarim, the Gemara says. Nachala B'li Mitzarim. Prazos Teshav Yerushalayim. It says when Mashiach comes, Yerushalayim is going to sit prazos, without walls. Yeah? You're not going to need an iron dome to intercept rockets. You're not going to need walls. Prazos Teshav Yerushalayim. So what happens then is, the lack of boundaries is horribly destructive. It creates an ayin instead of a yesh. There's no self. I don't know who I am. That's absolute destruction. That's absolute destruction. What happens in this space? In this space, the person loses and has to surrender their entire ego. Their entire ego has been penetrated. What's the healing? There's only one healing. The healing is that they align themselves with the Ein Sof, which is infinite, the only source of real security. And in that place, they rebuild themselves, but from a place of infinity, and that you can't have with the keli. So the very breach of boundaries becomes an experience where the person is now channeling something that's infinite. But this is a very, very intense process. And then they create boundaries, but the boundaries are rooted in a completely different reality. They're not boundaries that limit you, they're boundaries that give you access with something that is completely beyond boundaries. That's the p'china of a faratzta yam of a kedem, it's a fine of a negma. Faratzta miloshin pirates. Yalla ha-pirates l'fanenu. Mashiach comes from parrots. Eila told us, parrots. Yehuda, parrots. Right, there's Peretz Zarech, and Peretz is the grandfather of Boaz, the grandfather of David. It's a p'china of Peretz, Simcha Peretz Gadu, Faratzta, breaking the boundaries. But there's different types of breaking boundaries. Breaking boundaries because I don't respect you. There's breaking boundaries because you're a channel for infinity. So sometimes when we become ayin in life, the ani is destroyed and becomes ayin. Healing is that you become a keli for the real ayin. No thingness. From nothingness you become no thing. And then when you become no thing, then you're in a different space. You're in a different space. So that's what healing looks like. The ani becomes ayin in a negative way, right? Nothing, tashmata, and then the ayin makes you a keli to be no thing. You're a nothing because you're no thing. Ki avi v'imi azavuni, v'Hashem yasveni. Avi v'imi are the protectors. What's the job of a father and a mother? Boundaries. What are a father and mother supposed to do? Create a home, create a space, create a shelter, protect the child. But avi v'imi azavuni, your father and mother couldn't do that. They themselves didn't have boundaries. Whatever, they were busy, they were stressed, they were overwhelmed. Maybe one of them was sick, who knows? Right? Maybe one of them died, one of them was incapable. Whatever it is, they didn't notice, they didn't have too much, whatever. Every person their own story. So what's Vashem Yasveni? I don't have those boundaries. So I need to find refuge in a space that is completely beyond. It's ayin. But from that ayin, you recreate a new ani. Ani oisis ayin. The ani becomes an ani that comes from ayin. So it's not a less powerful ani. That's a real ani. Now you have no fear. Now you've already touched the essence of vulnerability. Everything has been shattered. You're not afraid to be vulnerable. And you'll right away see this type of b'chol maidecha with people. You know, sometimes you meet a person, and within 5 minutes you could see in their eyes that you can go with them anywhere. You could talk about anything. They're just there. They're wearing their soul on their sleeve. Like they're not protecting anything anymore. Everything has already been, I'm not busy protecting myself. You know, sometimes we all walk around with bulletproof vests. Everybody's protecting themselves, saying the right thing, or being hyper vigilant, even when you make like everything was just a cheshbon, you know. I got to fit in, and I want to be just, especially before Yom Kippur, whatever, etc. You know, we all, So real authenticity is I'm not protecting anything anymore. I don't have anything to protect. Once Dani becomes ayin, what do you have to protect anything? So it's really the place of all emancipation and freedom. And sometimes the ayin in the negative becomes the ayin in the positive. So that's the b'chol maidecha. You meet a person and you right away feel that there's a frequency of connection with no ears, no shtick, no drama, nothing, no lies, not even no conscious lies, not even unconscious lies. There's just no deception. It's like, oh wow, that's a breath of fresh air. Huh?
Some people are very afraid of that.
Of course. I'm afraid of those people if I'm hiding a lot of skeletons. And the more skeletons I'm hiding, the more afraid. And often the way of dealing with my fear is I'm not going to say I'm afraid because I'm not afraid, I'm just a healthy guy. So where you're saying, yeah, as Abyssal Meshiga. He's listening to Rabbi YY too much. It happens to the best families. Everybody's laughing, that means I said something real, right? When everybody laughs, it's usually because I said something real, not because it was a good joke. I have experience with them. You're listening a little too much. Calm down. Calm down. That's a wonderful way of saying I'm afraid. There's something triggering me, right? Because that's hard to say. I'm not triggered. I'm not triggered by anything. I'm just healthy. But you went a little crazy. Why'd you go crazy? Because you became a better father? Because you became a better husband? Why? Because you're davening with a little more kavanah? Because you're learning with a little more geschmack? Because you're actually a little more functional? Because you became less toxic? What made you so crazy? You're shaking up. You're creating a ruckus. You're talking about things that we never spoke about. That's not good. But you don't have to be judgmental. You don't have to be judgmental. You have to understand that these are real fears. It's almost we have to have empathy. You have to have compassion. That's why he says, "V'have shval ruach b'fnei kol ha'adam." I have to be humble in front of every person. This is the arrogance that comes from healing. You know, there's arrogance that comes from healing. Like, ich bin a ruchni is the Feinschmecker. Doesn't work that way. A relationship in the flow is always a relationship with ayin. The moment like, I get it, you know, I get it. I know what healing is. I know everybody else is the simple folk who are still stuck in pagan, you know, in pagan orthodoxy. I get it. Ich bin von der Aufgeklärte. I'm from the spiritual Aufgeklärte. It doesn't work that way because that's another serious trap. That's a very, people in this class should know it. The moment I go into that space, it's a very serious trap. Not because you should minimize your journey or give credence to stupidity and people who are completely toxic. Not. But it's just when a person is really in touch with the frequency of trust and love and faith, they just don't go into that place. Because you're like in a place of light, you're not in a place of darkness. So when somebody is going through their journey, you could see God inside of them, and you can also appreciate the fact that people are in different places. And as the Alter Rebbe says, Lo yidach memenu nidach. Everybody at the end is going to go to love because that's what's going to be, just what's going to be. The moment, you know, I'm better than you because I did this and you didn't, and you're from the idiots and I'm from the enlightened ones. It's just another way of taking me out of being one with the source. Like if you're one with the source, be a conduit for the source. Why are you busy? You know, how is judgmentalism going to help anybody? How is it even going to help you? What is the statement you're telling yourself by being superior? Like, how is that helping you? Yeah, but it takes you back to square one without knowing it, because it takes you back to square one in a very sly and clever way. Like, I'm healthy. Like, I can have an honest conversation. You can't. So look at the difference. Right? So basically, it's again, all these things are so subtle, you know. What'd you say? The healing becomes another source of protection, of klipa. It's another source of klipa. Yeah, listen, for Chassidus to become a klipa is not hard. Because unfortunately, you know, when Chassidus is not lived and breathed and applied, it could just become another. Yeah, it's another mask. It's a great mask, you know. It's a great mask. This is a very deep process, and at the end of the day, it's all between you and God. Like nobody else knows. You know, some people may know a little bit, may sniff out a little bit, but this is a very intimate process. Luchas acharoines nitnu b'chashoyi. The second luchas were given in silence. That's why they didn't break. The first luchas, there was a lot of drama, there was a lot of fanfare. So the Gemara says it broke. It didn't last. The luchas acharonis was nitnu b'chashoyi. So whatever is b'chashoyi lasts, because it's intimate, it's silent, it's quiet. You know. Okay, let's at least finish the paragraph. Yeah, so this is what tshuva looks like. Everybody understands? Rabbi Isaac verstehst? A little illustration. I don't know, just affected me very deeply. There was a Yid, I happen to know him, he's already in the Olam HaEmes. He was a young man, he died young, and he was very sick. He had different sicknesses that he was struggling with. I once saw this on a video. Somebody showed me on a video. The one who took the video showed it to me. I don't know, it probably was not, I don't know if it was made public. Could be it was, but I saw it many years ago. So this person, he was a Lubavitcher Chassid, and he went to get $1 from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So he was online. It came his turn. So he looks at the Rebbe and he starts going like this. You know, like they used to do to 4-year-old children, you know? Like, you're going to get it, you know? Was chappen, zweipet. Like, he's going like this to the Rebbe. It was very strange. I mean, even not a chassid. I mean, standing in front of the Rebbe is triple his age, besides being the Rebbe. And the like you would make to a little kid. But before, and he comes over to the Rebbe and he says, I am very disappointed in you. And he's going like this. I am very disappointed in you. In Yiddish it means, ich bin sehr enttäuscht in dir. In Hebrew it's, ani ma'od me'uchzav mimcha. So I'm watching it, and I was so curious how the Rebbe would respond to that. You know, and he was this person was feeling it. He was like this. And this is what I remember. It could be it's not verbatim. The Rebbe looked at him, and the Rebbe repeated his words. He said, "You're very disappointed in me. You're very disappointed in me. Well, that makes two of us, because I'm also very disappointed in me." that makes two of us. Or he said, "You're in good company. You're in good company." I think I'm also disappointed in me. And they gave him a bracha. Now, I want you to think about it. If somebody comes to anybody, forget a big Rebbe, says, I'm very disappointed in you. Usually, the natural trigger, you become a little defensive. True, if you're smart, you're not going to attack. Sometimes you become defensive. You're disappointed in me, should I tell you? Okay, if you have a little more intelligence, mahal tzachayin, you repress it. But it's much less geschmack than when somebody comes and tells you, you know, I'm not disappointed in you. So you may hold it, but there's a little bit of a trigger there. I was so touched by the calmness. Like the Rebbe repeated his words, like, I heard what you said. And then he said, you're in good company. I'm actually with you. I don't know why he was disappointed. Maybe he felt that the Rebbe could bless him, that he shouldn't be sick. I don't know. He didn't say, so I don't know what the story was. But there was also something else here. He was a chassid. He was a Chabad chassid. A chassid is connected to the Rebbe. L'cha'oireh, I'm disappointed in you. It's a form of disconnection. You betrayed me. So the Rebbe was telling him, I'm with you. I'm with you there too. Don't worry. We're not separate. You're disappointed in me. I'm with you. We're still connected. We're together. He didn't detach even for a moment. He was present there. This is a response. Where does this response come from? So it's not just a person who's humble and worked out. It represents that you're completely in a space where you're not being protected by an ego. There's no protective mechanism. It's like, you know, usually your wife comes to you and says, I'm disappointed in you. So right away, you know, what was yet? You know, was yet? So, you know, right away you're like, you know, when you're completely in a place of trust, you could be present, and it's very vulnerable. I don't know what's coming next. I don't have to be hypervigilant. And I could be fully present to that energy and then respond from that place with complete openness. That's a space where the person is not living in a shell. They're just completely open. And in many ways, it's painful because I don't know what you're going to say. I don't know what's going to happen the next moment, and I'm not preparing for it. I'm not going to control it. I don't have to control it. I don't have to control it because I'm not living in active trauma. I'm living in active trust. Yeah, I have nothing to hide. I got to breathe after this. but you understand? It was such a small interaction, but it was like, wow, what a lesson in life. Now you can't fake this. Either you're in or you're not in. It's not something you can fake, you know. Okay, I think we'll just take a break here, and I wish everybody an amazing year and a gmar chesed tova. Ha'isayir is tshuva amitis, not just tshuva tata, but tshuva ilah. It's not just tshuva me'ira, but tshuva me'ava. And everybody should be blessed with your most incredible year yet. Begeshem u'beruach, b'toiv ha'nira v'hanigla. B'chol mila demeitav menefesh v'ad basar, with hatzlocha ad b'lidayan menuchas ha'nefesh and archavas hadas. It should be a year of complete victory of the Dan Notzach, and ultimately a year of complete redemption. A good gebenched year, everybody. Monday morning, we'll have a shir be'ezer Hashem. Okay, I had a morning workout today. A lot to process? Okay. It says in Zohar that Shuva is b'shaita chada. Literally means one moment. Chassidus Taichus shaita shah comes from the word vayisha, aker, one turn. It's one turn. Huh? It's a lot to process, but it's shaita chada. Letting go is always a split second, but it takes sometimes time to get to that split second. Berega katan azaftich uberachmim g'doylam akaptzich. Yeah. I'm here Yom Kippur, yeah. Yeah. Let me learn Shema.